Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome. This is Chapter 8, last part of it, 8.3. Let's get started. Let's talk about emotion. So emotion, our definition for it is going to be a complex psychological state that involves subjective experience, a physiological response, and a behavior or expressive response to follow. Here we go. Let's just go through that one by one. A subjective experience, meaning an experience personal to you. A physiological response, a change in your body. And a behavioral or expressive response. Something happens after that change in the body. A facial expression, okay? Sweat from your palms, something like that. How are emotions different from moods? Emotions are intense, but short-lived. More likely to have a specific cause, to be directed towards some particular object, and to motivate a person to take some sort of action. Moods are a little bit longer. They involve a milder emotional state that is more general and pervasive, gloominess, contentment, all that kind of stuff. That would be a mood. So the function of emotion, it helps us set goals, and can be goals themselves. You know, to feel a certain thing is definitely something that we try to do. So you try to maximize the positive emotions and you try to minimize the negative. So at one point, psychologists looked at emotions as disturbances, problems. But now they are more attuned to the importance of emotions in decision-making, purposeful behavior, and setting appropriate goals. There's this thing called emotional intelligence. I think that is probably, it's unbelievably important to have and to build. But, you know, society doesn't really necessarily push that upon you. This is one of the reasons I think psychology should be a mandatory class in high school. Not AP psychology, but just psychology. So you can gain a little bit more emotional intelligence and understand that emotions are something that everybody deals with and that you do have control over, and it is a skill. It's a skill to understand and control emotion. So we have the evolutionary explanations here. Charles Darwin, he wrote On the Origins of Species. So the expression of the emotions in man and animals was written 13 years after his original work. He described facial expressions, body movements, and postures used to express certain emotions in man and animal. He suggested that emotions reflect evolutionary adaptations to the problems of survival and reproduction. So, what do evolutionary psychologists say? They agree that emotions are a product of evolution, obviously. They help us solve adaptive problems posed by the environment. They move us. They act as motivators towards potential resources and away from potential dangers. Fear, evade a threat. Anger, fight a rival. Love, find a mate, reproduce. And disgust, avoid sickening stimulus. Those are some basic emotions. Those help us survive. Now, do they get manipulated by this modern world? They sure do. So snarls of a baboon equals ready to fight. Wolf rolling over on its back equals willingness to back down. You get to see emotions come out in animals naturally. We try to suppress them and control them a whole lot as humans. So, the subjective experience of emotion. So we have basic emotions. There's only 6. So the most fundamental set of emotional categories, which are biologically innate, evolutionarily determined, and culturally universal. These are the basic emotions. Fear, disgust, surprise, happiness, anger, sadness. So, you might remember the movie Inside Out. These are pretty much the characters. Other possible candidates are contempt, which is disdain, right? You look at somebody as they are less than. This is easily shown by, we'll look at the facial expression for this, but a slight uptick of one side of the mouth and a raised eyebrow. It is, if you see somebody looking at you like that, that's probably you know, a facial expression that has leaked, and they think that they're better than you, maybe just for that moment, maybe for everything. So these are thought to be biologically determined. There are subcategories for each emotion, so anger can be divvied up into certain things, right? So rage is a form of anger, a high level of anger. Bitter resentment, annoyance, all forms of anger, okay? Then we have mixed emotions, so very different emotions are experienced in rapid succession. You can feel this, I mean, I think about funerals probably the most whenever I think about mixed emotions. Culture, gender, and emotional experience. James Russell, a Canadian psychologist, found that emotions were most commonly classified into two categories. One, the degree to which the emotion is pleasant or unpleasant. You can understand that, right? You have happy, you have sad. And then two, the level of activation or arousal associated with the emotion. What does the emotion actually do to your body? And then Marcus and Kitayama, more psychologists, found out there might be one more category, and that might be interpersonal engagement. So there's an emotional dimension reflecting the degree to which emotions involve a relationship with another person or other people. So there is that thing, you know that with emotions, you know, love, happiness, disappointment, all that kind of stuff. It almost has, there has to be another factor there, another person that you could feel that with. Neuroscience of emotion, so emotion in the sympathetic nervous system. Remember, the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight system. So the autonomic nervous system is activated with certain emotions. So the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, is activated by fear, love, and excitement. Okay, so you're chased by a bear, you're on a roller coaster, you got a speech in front of the class, reunited with a loved one after a long absence, all going to probably create the same physiological nervous system response, fight or flight. Butterflies in your stomach, sweaty palms, elevated heart rate, all that kind of stuff, that could come with that. Fear, anger, and sadness are all associated with, decelerated heart rate, sorry. Fear, anger, and sadness are all associated with accelerated heart rate. Anger increases blood pressure more than fear. Anger produces an increase in skin temperature, while fear decreases the skin temperature. Hot under the collar or cold feet, those are real sayings that actually mean something. You know, when you get angry, you're hot under the collar. No, your skin temperature is actually increasing. When you are nervous or scared or fearful about something, right, you would get cold feet because your body temperature really does decrease. There is something actually to that. These are findings that are said to be universal. The emotional brain, so we actually have two kind of pathways of emotion in the brain. Obviously the amygdala is our fear control center, emotional center of our brain. So it's the almond-shaped cluster of neurons in the brain's temporal lobe, involved in memory and emotional responses, especially fear. All incoming sensory information is directed to the thalamus, right? So all of the senses have to come through the thalamus except for one. That's smell. So we have an indirect neural pathway to the cortex. So it's deliberating the stimulus. It's actually thinking about the stimulus. So an indirect neural pathway would be, you get to think about if it's scary or not. Okay? So that'd be like walking down the street, you see somebody, they got a hood on, you can't see their face, get a little bit scary. You get to think about that and be like, okay, this is a scary situation, I'm going to move to the opposite side of the street, or I'm going to go inside this building, whatever it is. You get to think about that. But there are certain things that you don't get to think about, and that is the direct neural pathway. It goes straight to the amygdala. You don't even have a chance. It just, boom, instantly invokes fear, and then the fear responds. So responding instinctively. This will trigger the fight or flight system without you consciously assessing the situation. You know, it'll be, all of a sudden you look over the edge. Boom, okay, that's scary. I'm scared of heights. Spider, snake, anything like that. Okay? You wouldn't even have to understand or think about if it's fearful or not. It's just automatically registered as fearful in your brain. The expressions of emotion, so just talking about facial expressions. When you talk about facial expressions, or you even talk about basic emotions, you're going to go straight to this guy named Paul Ekman. Okay? There's a little picture of him down here. So the behavioral components of emotion include facial expressions and nonverbal behavior. A lot of people talk with their body. and they leak things in their face. So Paul Ekman, an American psychologist and emotion researcher who is best known for his work in classifying basic emotions, analyzing facial expressions. He analyzed like over 4,000 muscles in the face, 4,000 different movements, and he can control all of them. He's a very interesting man. And demonstrating that basic emotions and facial expressions are culturally universal. So he estimates that the human face has over 7,000 different expressions. He analyzed facial muscles involved in making each expression, and he wrote it down. It's pure research. Check it out. It's so interesting. He precisely characterized happiness, sadness, surprise, fear, anger, and disgust. All basic emotions also come with a universally recognized facial expression. Okay? So facial expressions are innate. Blind children express via the same facial expressions. So can you spot the fake smile? That's an activity that we usually do. If you're in person, if you come to class, we'll probably end up doing it. So you can look here. We have disgust, anger, surprise, contempt. Okay, again, I told you a lip corner kind of goes up. Fear, sadness, and then happiness. Happiness, a real smile always includes crow's feet wrinkles. A real smile is always in the eyes. Okay? So it's all movement from the orbital muscles, right? Culture and emotional expressions. So Ekman showed that facial expressions to people from 21 different countries. Everyone tested identified the emotions being expressed with high accuracy. Tone of voice and nonverbal expression also seem easily understood across culture. Some specific nonverbal gestures called emblems vary across cultures, so shaking your head. This is no in the United States, and this is yes in India. It's very similar, a little bit different, but could be easily confused. How and when we express emotions are strongly influenced by cultural norms. These are called display rules. So social and cultural regulations governing emotional expression, especially facial expressions. You might be in a certain situation and you are pretty much known not to make a certain facial expression or to emote a certain behavior. Anthropomorphism, the attribution of human traits, motives, and emotions, behaviors to non-human animals or inanimate objects. This has happened, it's like Disney does this to us, right? I mean, Bambi lost his mother, it was sad, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Bambi probably wouldn't be sad for too long in real life. Probably just go on, try to survive. Lion King, lions aren't really that nice. They'll hurt you if you get too close to them. So here's some theories of emotion. You're going to need to know the difference between these theories. So we have the James Lange theory of emotion. This theory of emotion arises from the perception of body changes. I'm scared because I'm trembling. So the actual body change has to happen first with the James Lange theory of emotion. This is proven through the facial feedback theory. So expressing a specific emotion, especially facially, causes the subjective experience of that emotion. If I fake a smile for so long, eventually I will feel happiness. It's classically conditioned that way. If I stand proud for so long, I will end up feeling pride. That's how it goes. You're classically conditioned. When you walk with your shoulders back, you feel pride. Okay? It's all tied together. Okay? One elicits the other. And vice versa. The Cannon-Bard theory of emotion challenged the James Lange theory, saying that that the physiological and emotional response comes at the same time. So they basically said the emotion and the physiological response happen at the exact same time. Here's the example. The stimulus, which would be a bear, all right, subcortical activity in the thalamus. The thalamus registers the stimulus, And then the autonomic arousal, which would be fight or flight, and the conscious emotional state, which would be fear, happen at the exact same time. I always remember that as a double barrel cannon, shooting something out at the same time. Cannon barred, same time. And then we have the cognitive theories of emotion. We have the two-factor theory of emotion. So the Schachter and Singer, those are two psychologists, they have a theory that emotion is the interaction of physiological arousal and cognitive label that we apply to explain that arousal. Now this is interesting. So, you know, it's almost like last time that I was in this situation, so you can feel the same physiological thing, right? You could be scared in a very scary situation where you might get beat up, all right? And you're thinking that you're going to be threatened, but you have the same physiological response as you do at a concert because you're excited, right? You have to appraise the situation, right? There's two factors to it. There's the physiological change, and then there's, hey, last time I was here, I labeled this as excitement. And so you're not fearful or anything like that. You're like, oh, last time I was here, this physiological change. Yes, it was excitement. I'm at a concert. I'm enjoying myself. Then we have the cognitive appraisal theory of emotion. This is a theory that emotional responses are triggered by cognitive evaluation. So we have the situation, the cognitive appraisal, how you interpret the situation, which really comes down to this question, is this fearful or not? And then physiological response, what happens to your body, and then the subjective experience, which would be fear or not fear. And then there's one more that's not up here. It's called the opponent process theory of emotion. In the presence of fear, there is no relief. In the presence of relief, there is no fear. In the presence of happiness, there is no sadness. In the presence of sadness, there is no happiness. It is called the opponent process theory of emotion. It's just like the opponent process theory of color vision. All right, we're all done. See you next time.